So, welcome everybody, and especially those who have not seen yet. First of all, we're going to look at the office for the bureau for this meeting. I'll be chairman. Jean-Christophe, has he arrived? Yes, he's here. So, we've got Thorsten Hans, who's our biggest German investor. Here he is, yes. And Jean-Christophe Litaille, who is the second biggest investor. So we asked them to be scrutineers, and they've accepted that mission. And then, of course, Patricia Marigny, who is deputy CEO of the group, and she'll be the secretary of this bureau. So, a word first about the quorum. You know that we need a minimum quorum to be able to deliberate. We're well past that mark. We're above 75% this year. Every year we go up a couple of tenths of a percentage point, and that's great. In terms of number of shareholders or voters, that's increased too, and the powers to the president are 15.52%. A lot of shareholders have preferred to give power of attorney in case they didn't make it. So that's why I've got so many voting powers today. So you've understood that we can validly deliberate because we've gone well beyond the maximum quorum. So, Thermador group, 770 people. So I will start with our employees and remind you that they were key to building the group, and over the past 3 years, of course, they suffered greatly after the COVID crisis and all that came afterwards. We're in a new phase now, and those people have always been present, and thanks to them, we've been able to achieve the results we've achieved. So, congratulations to them. Particular thought for those who work in what used to be Dipra and Rousseau. These companies have merged to become Audrea, and these are very complicated operations to complete. It takes a lot of effort for the employees. So, a particular thought for them and for the managers of the company, because it's a very difficult thing to go through. A thought too for our IT team, who accompanied Dipra and also employees to go towards this merger, because they too have had very difficult and long days. So, I'm going to talk to you about the universal registration document. So I'll refer to URD, which you have in a paper version and a digital version. We've got a few copies here today. So if a young shareholders or employee ask me what we should read of these 180 pages, I would say the first chapter is the most important, and especially pages 10 and 11, because that's where we talk about our challenges, what we're expecting in the future as possible difficulties or challenges, and what are our objectives and how we intend to meet them. So I'm going to go through those pages quickly now. So, human resources first. The challenge in the years ahead is to be able to attract and keep and train talent. And as you know, it's becoming more and more difficult to do that. Thermador group is very much affected by that trend. We've noted, and you'll see that on page 102, on the URD, we've had more departures and substantially more than normal. A lot of personal reasons, of course, attached to that. certain impatience amongst the younger members, wanting to move up or move elsewhere. But this a real challenge for all companies and of course for Thermador, especially as we're looking for employee loyalty. So on this theme of human resources, there's a particular note about equality at every level of governance. Well, we want to get beyond 40% of women at every stage of our governance, and we're not there yet. A word about diversity and the need to hunt down any form of discrimination in Thermador Group, and we are going to look at that very closely in 2023 through our employee survey, which we do every 3 years. Sustainable development, I'll talk more about that later, but for the moment I'll just say that we need to keep to our promises, our objectives for 2030, and also we need to remain vigilant to ensure that everybody can show initiative within our subsidiaries towards those targets. So our business, if we want to control our markets better in the years and months ahead, we need to know the customers of our customers. That's a job for marketing, and something we haven't done very much for the moment, but we want to do better in the future. We need to develop internationally. Lionel will talk to us about that later, and continue to integrate the new acquisitions that have joined us over the past few years. You know that since 2015 we've brought in 12 new subsidiaries, and we need them to succeed, and so we need to continue to work on integrating them and achieving synergies. So digital transition, I'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about future prospects, but we need to develop our skills in all areas of digital and also ensure the group's computer security to ensure that the company can never be blocked in terms of its activities. Geopolitics is something that didn't appear in the URD last year, but we've really realized that we need to diversify our purchasing. As you know, it's no secret, we have a lot of partners in China, 33% of our supplies, and of course we're not going to abandon those partnerships. We've been working them for many years, very constructive partnerships, but we do need to diversify and maybe find partners in other countries. We have suppliers in 40 countries, so there are of course opportunities to find other sources of supply other than China. So, objectives, as appear in the URD, we want to maintain annual average growth above 7% over the next 10 years. It's as easy as that. It can be done in different ways, and we'll address that later. Of course, we need to respect all our stakeholders whilst we achieve that, and that means our employees, customers, suppliers, and of course our shareholders, but also other stakeholders, for example our banks, or even our auditors, all those in contact with the company, and of course the environment, and I will talk about that later. So how do we intend to achieve this growth? So we have several levers for growth. First of all, organic growth through market share. Some of our products can still grow in terms of market share. As I often say when investors ask me, our market shares range from 0 to 30, 35, 40% market share for certain products. And of course, it's where the market share is the lowest, where we can increase the most. Extending our product ranges, our companies, our subsidiaries have always got new ideas to increase their product ranges, and there's also inflation, of course, which allows us to increase turnover. Of course, when the companies are strong enough to be able to pass on those costs to their customers. International development, Lyon will talk about that later. Creation of subsidiaries. The last subsidiaries created was 2013 with XLR, and 2015 for AILO. Maybe in the future we'll be able to initiate new groups from something emanating from a company of the group already, or from scratch, from just a new idea. External growth, of course we've done a lot of that in recent years. We can still see that as an opportunity. 2023, we've got other priorities than external growth. That doesn't mean we won't listen to opportunities that come from companies, but it's certainly not our priority in 2023. And of course, all of that has to be done taking sustainable development into account. Increase our business without impacting the environment more, and indeed we would be seeking to impact it less. So, sustainable in development. So, in 2021 we presented a 10-year plan which showed 19 indicators for 2023, and every year we make a linear calculation for each of these indicators to see if we're on track. This was done, of course, in 2022, and we are ahead of the game. Some people say the objectives weren't ambitious enough, but I would say that it's because our staff have worked so hard, but we are slightly ahead of the game compared to our objectives set in 2021. But that means we need to be vigilant and keep an eye on what can be quite difficult objectives. So those include employee loyalty, and average length of service is an objective. And of course, if we don't manage to secure employee loyalty, that indicator will be affected. So we need to increase the shareholding of employees in different forms, retired, active, etc. And our target is 8.5, and I have to say that in 2022 we stayed at 7% compared like 2021. So we've got the FCPA, the mutual fund, FCP Thermador, which is very dynamic, but we need to continue to accompany our employees in this regard to reach that target of 8.5%. Something else that's difficult to do is to say to what extent we can reduce our carbon footprint, and in particular linked to our products. It represents 94% of emissions. It's an estimate, but 94% of our emissions in equivalent tons of CO2 are due to our products that we sell. So if we want to reduce, for example, by 25% that footprint, we need to have our suppliers with us, and we need to do this with them. And that's why in 2022 we push back that commitment because we weren't able to control that. We need to work closer with our suppliers in 2023 to achieve the objectives which are coherent with the increase in temperatures, which is going to be 1.5%. We now also need to think about the new a massive increase in regulatory texts which are going to come. You can't imagine what that's going to be. Very complex text that we need to apply because we're a listed company on the regulated markets. So we're in the front line. Two texts in particular which draw my attention is the duty of care, and that means controlling the supply chain, i.e. your suppliers, and ensure that they control their own suppliers. So it's a real commitment for all partners and the partners of our partners to avoid risks in terms of employment, social, environmental drifts, deviations. So that's the first thing, duty of care, and that will take a lot of effort in the future. The CSRD is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. So that's extra financial reporting. You know the EFPS, the extra financial performance statement that you see in our URD. In 2 years, will be replaced by the CSRD. So we're trying to keep ahead of that, and but it will affect how we present our information. Extra financial performance. It's a very complex and complete directive. And then finally, the scoring act. The extra financial scoring agencies, if we answer their questions correctly, if they find the answers to their questions in our documentation, that's fine for Thermador in terms of scores. But as it happened last year with Moody's, if they can't find the answers to their questions, we can get poor scores, and so that can be detrimental to the group. So we need to be able to answer all scoring rating, all the rating agencies, and if possible, get a good score in each case. And in any event, we have to avoid controversy. So it could be something that happens in your company or in your supplier's company, which can affect the score. So don't worry, I'm not going to post up the 19 indicators like I did last year. I'm just going to zoom in on 2 or 3 elements which seem the most difficult to achieve. The employee absenteeism, so has increased from 3.4 to 3.5. It's a small increase, but we need to be vigilant to ensure that our employees are not absent for whatever reason it might be too often. And that's linked, of course, to quality of management, but also there could be many other factors that requires a lot of work to monitor it. Share of employee shareholding has stagnated at 7%. We need to be vigilant on that. Finally, scope 3, that's what we talked about earlier. We can't tell you today what our commitment is going to be in terms of reducing our scope 3 CO2 footprint. We need to be able to give our objective and to keep to that objective. And that's not going to be easy because we obviously have to bring along our suppliers with us on that project. And then this is a question of duty of care. We opened a responsible purchasing charter last year, and as you see, most of our suppliers have signed it, but now we need to check that they're adhering to it. Of course, it's easy to sign a charter, to send it to your customer, and then move on, say, well, I've done it, I've signed it, but we need to check that there's no deviations, any drift in relation to their promises, and remind them of any discrepancies that might exist, so that they remain coherent within the group. We have 800 suppliers. Obviously, we're not going to go into detail with those 800, but we'll start with the most important amongst them, and that's a big job for our purchasing department. Yves? Oh, he's here. Yeah. Yves is going to talk to us about solar in a moment. So you're very familiar with this slide. It's a synthetic presentation of the activities of all our subsidiaries, lots of distribution channels, lots of different product groups. I'm just going to focus on new things, new elements. In the middle you can see a new company, DPI. They arrived, joined us on the 31st of October, and they deliver piping, plastic piping for wet and dry networks, for public works to distributors. That's an additional range of products for Thermador Group. Gregory Urpi is with us here today. So if you want to ask him any questions about why, for example, you set up the company in Monaco, it's a question that shareholders ask, but you can, of course, get hold of him later and ask him any questions you might like to. It's a really surprising story. It's be worthwhile. This is certainly a very dynamic company. There's 17 of them, and they did 62 million euros of turnover last year, quite extraordinary ratio of number of employees to turnover. AFI, they were actually in the business park where we've been for many years, very near to Sferaco, and they've merged with Sferaco, so that means that we now have a bigger range of steel and iron valves, and enable them to diversify suppliers, sources of supply. Back to basics with Thermador. Thermador was created in 1968, and in 2022 had a remarkable performance. I thought it'd be interesting for you to discover a new range of products which has had real success in 2022, and Yves is going to come up here to talk to us about that. Thank you, Guillaume. Good evening, all. So yeah, Thermador, you'll see through the URD, you'll see that Thermador has grown well over recent years. We distributed and continue to sell simple products, accessories, but over recent years we've moved into more technical areas like heat pump accessories. And last year, the company took a big step yesterday in solar. And so today I'm going to present an individual solar water heater today to show you what we do. In that area, we went from 100,000 to 8 million euros of turnover on these products, thanks to Opaline for the work they did on the virtual show house. This was developed by different subsidiaries of the group. We're involved in this project for the virtual show house. You can see the different equipment that are produced by the different, which are sold by the different subsidiaries. So we're going to look at individual solar water heaters, and this is equipped for individual solar heating. You can see all the other equipment from the different subsidiaries, but in the boiler room, you see the different units to produce hot water and heating. So here we can see the equipment in yellow flashing. You see it's very simple. You've got the panels on the roof and piping to feed the panels, and that's supplied by, those are supplied by PV tube. Now we're going to look more closely at the boiler room. So you see the water tank, like in your own house probably, you'll probably have an electric water heater. And this is fed not by electricity but by the solar panels on the roof. So it's a very simple system. A water heater in the middle and a range of accessories around it which ensure the safety and the comfort of the system to get water at the right temperature all day long. Important to underline that our historic suppliers have provided all these parts. So there's about 25 different parts, and these are assembled in our company to be delivered to our different customers. So here we've got a solar water heater, but we've also got a range of combined systems which are called SSC, where we can produce domestic hot water, but also to heat water for heating. So it's a very advantageous addition. So for information, the individual kit is around 1,500 to 2,000 euros sold to our wholesalers. So of course greater, much higher value products than the accessories we sold in the past for a few dozen euros. So they've been designed by our marketing teams and technical teams to respond to meet all the needs of a family, whatever size, but also to take account of the energy generating system in place. So if there's no sun, if there's not enough light, then we can switch to electricity or heat pump or a wood-fired or coal-fired or gas-fired heater. So we're part of the energy transition process because these systems are aided by state subsidies, energy saving certificates and MaPrimeRénov'. And of course we're contributing to sustainable development because these systems are fully recyclable. Okay, well that's my presentation. Please don't hesitate to come and see me after. And you can talk to our solar development manager who's here too today. Thank you for your attention, and back to Guillaume. Thank you, Yves. So we're going to have a look at turnover for 2022. This is what you've received in your letters to the shareholders. But here we've got a particular focus on the companies who supply DIY. So this is the public retail, the retail sector. This is a simple table. You see that their turnover is fairly stable, which is fairly stable compared to last year. But that includes a very high level of inflation of 10.8%. So in reality, this market has declined in terms of volumes, both for some of our products, but also for our customers who suffered, particularly in the garden product sector, we could have expected a return to normal after those kind of wild years of the post-COVID period. So, building and public works, a particular focus on Isocel, as I always used to call the little company, because for a long time it was selling 5 or 6 million euros of turnover, but it's now gone past the 10 million mark. It's diversified and taken advantage of the renewable energies boom. Those companies working on generators and heat pumps. So it's of course not just the market that's done that, but they've obviously worked hard themselves too within their subsidiary. DPI, 9 million, that's one quarter. They did 62 million last year. 62% followed a year of 47. Sorry, 62 million followed 47 million the previous year. But they have taken market share, and they will certainly grow in the years ahead. We've identified a certain number of synergies in terms of customers and sometimes suppliers. For example, in water and irrigation, there could be synergies with other subsidiaries. Thermador has gone beyond the 100 million point. And I remember back in the day when they went over 100 million francs, it was the thing. Now it's euros, 6.5 times more. Accélère now was created 10 years ago, continues to grow year after year, hard work, and it's based on its base business. So we're very confident. It's just below the profitability break-even level. We're confident in their ability to be complementary to the other activities. We know that buildings will need their products in the future as we move into more and more energy-saving buildings. For industry and export, good scores in industry, but again, because of inflation. When you look at quantities in detail, we see that often there's stability of volumes, which is already a good performance, I would say. Sodeco Valves is a very particular example. So the manager is here. You can talk to him later or during the cocktail. A record year. Oh, it's a real pleasure to see. It was started in 2007. Change of manager in that year. Peter took things in hand, has performed remarkably, and that's very promising. I'm going to hand over to Lionel, who's going to talk to us about export. Thank you, Guillaume. Yeah, so we talked about Sodeco, great year for them, and contributed to the great results for international business in 2022. Represented 17%, 1 percentage point more than last year, and it's really part of our strategy, so that's great. We want to see international business progress, so that's good news. Thanks to Sodeco, had a great year, very successful projects in Germany, Benelux, and in France. Safeco and FG Inox too. They sell accessories, industrial valves linked to water and climatic engineering. Great performance of those two companies in export, and also Odrea, who continue to grow in Spain thanks to its range of taps with DIY stores. On the map here you see the scope of our exports. So Europe's all European countries are covered by different subsidiaries, and a large part of Africa, where we've been working 5 or 6 years. A few other markets too, but the priority is Europe and Africa. Also note that we an aspiring number of languages. 20 languages are spoken by our employees. Means we can have a direct contact with our customers and understand their needs. Shall I talk about prospects for 2023? Yes, okay. So short term is to continue to grow in industry in Europe, because we've still got low market share. So we can really progress there in the years ahead, and we're going to work on that, mostly with Sodeco, FG Inox and Safeco, and retail with Odrea, but also Mecafe Domac, where we'll seek to continue to progress in Spain and in neighbouring countries with taps, but also other ranges brought by those companies. Thank you. And if you want any more information, we'll be here at the cocktail, and don't hesitate to come and talk to us. Okay, so if you can pass over to Patricia. So just to remind you that Lionel is the head of Safeco, the international subsidiary. He's also deputy CEO of Thermador, and he was appointed to that position if I needed to be replaced, if I had an accident or a health problem. In terms of governance, we have to be able to have the succession in place in case of an incident affecting the CEO. I'd reassure you that I'm in good health, but certainly I keep an eye on that. In Thermador Group, there's another key person, is the deputy CEO, and that's Patricia, and she's going to be talking to you about the figures, and we'll take another look at these figures for 2022. Thank you for your attention, first of all. Yes, Thermador Group. Guillaume and Lionel have talked to you about the activities of the different subsidiaries, and that's allowed us to reach a turnover above 550 million euros for 2022, with the variation in achievements, but the teams have worked very hard and we thank them. I think in the audience tonight there's a lot of shareholders who are also employees of Thermador Group, so thanks to you once again. So if we look at our year in terms of turnover, we've got energy renovation, which has helped us to achieve this growth, inflation too, as was discussed earlier, and a drop in volumes, which we've observed during 2022. All that made 2022 gave us the big challenge of protecting our margins. And so all our sales teams and purchasing teams worked on protecting our commercial margins, our trading margins. So in terms of the group, we lost 1.2% of margin. So the pro sector was able to maintain its margins, but in terms of retail, it was more complicated with customers in major retail, DIY retail, that consolidated, the stronger pound against the euro, the dollar against the euro, and the impact on the spending power of households. So all of that mechanically made the retail sector lose some margin. So to explain our profit, which reflects good progress, in spite of a declining commercial margin, we controlled our costs. So transport costs were down because of reduced volume. The most important item is salaries in terms of costs, and that's a real exercise from day to day to protect our employees against inflation. And we've seen increases in salaries of 4.62%, and that will continue into 2023 with our salary policy. Net profit is also a result of a drop in the tax burden. Every year we've had sliding scale tax reductions, but here we arrived at 25%, and that's saved us 1.6 million in terms of tax burden. We pay around 96% of our tax in France and the rest in Belgium and in Spain. So that's turnover and net profit. I'm going to move to financial structure, and in our financial structure we look at our audit. We've got the value of our stock in particular, and that's continuing to increase in terms of value. It's the result in the increase in purchasing prices and the value of the dollar, which exposes us to our purchases in China, which is 36%. So we have an increase in value of our stock, and in terms of the number of days of stock, we've reached 192 days of stock, which is down compared to 2021. That reflects our recognition. We'll talk about cash later on, but there was a certain recognition at the end of June with negative cash, and the need to realign the purchasing, our sales forecasts in relation to what turned out to be lower than expected, and we had to realign our purchasing from our subsidiaries, from our suppliers, to ensure that we were not buying too much in taking into consideration the level of sales that were lower than predicted. So we assessed our normative stock at 190 days, and so we did that at the end of September, and we're not very far from that objective because we're at 192. Cash, so it was very highly affected in 2022 because at the end of 2020, in the end of June 2022, we had a negative cash position for the first time ever. So we had to work hard on chasing up customers, working on our stock levels, and this allowed us to rebuild our cash in the second half, and that was substantial and of course very important. And then our cash was impacted because our subsidiaries in 2021 bought a lot of stock to be able to cope with the growth in activity. In some markets that didn't happen. So, for example, in watering, because there was no real watering season in 2022, so mechanically this meant we had to pay for stock that we didn't need, and we continue to pay for stock we don't need in 2023. In terms of payment times, customer receivables, we are protected by the LME law, which requires payment within 45 days, but we've got a lot of work to do in Spain to improve that situation. We'll be working on that in 2023. So, on to loans and debt. So, we've financed external growth, so acquisition of DPI, and this was the loan was secured with two banks, CIC, that we've been working with for a long time, and a new entrant, which was LCL, which used to be called Crédit Lyonnais. And so we take contracted loans with them to finance these acquisitions. In terms of financial structure, so we're in a strong position because we have almost 300 million euros of equity. In terms of ratios, we look at three different indicators. The first, return on capital employed, pre-tax, so that's 22% strong profitability. So you find a level which is above 2015, and so it's a strong ROCE position. Trading result related to turnover, 14.2%, good performance, and our net profit as a proportion of turnover is the highest after 2021, but 2021 was a very, very big year, an exceptional year. So 2022 was a very good year. So back to Guillaume for the next part of this presentation. So in terms of tax, corporation tax, I think it's the end of that period of easy tax years. I think that's over. So moving on to the distribution of capital, it's divided up as followed, more or less the same as previous years. 40% of private shareholders, 49% institutional shareholders, and the rest the group's employees and managers. There's a direct part which is held, and a part that was 1.2%, and a part held by the mutual fund FCP. We need to talk about the founders of the group, the private shareholders: Guy Vincent, Marc Serres, Hubert Fournier, who can't be with us today because he has bronchitis, and Geneviève Bory. The four of them hold 11% of our capital. So thanks to them for their continued loyalty. It's great to see some of you here at this AGM. So I want to talk to you about our institutional investors. You see the list on the screen here. It's quite important because there are 4 American investors, 2 German investors, one that we've known for a long time, a second one that is in the top 10, and a number of names from investment in France. And it's very flattering for us, for Thermador Groupe, to have those amongst our investors. That's the new thing this year, is the increase in foreign investors, because they now account for 26% of our capital. So that means that Patricia and I have to perform better and better in English to be able to communicate with them. So great satisfaction also comes from the number of shareholders that we have. It's always a challenge for a company of our size to find new private shareholders. We managed to do that. To compare with Air Liquide, for example, they've got 750 private shareholders. We've got a long way to go, but even so, we've got 350 more shareholders. Yes, that's a great performance for a company that's not a biotech or a fintech or a meditech. A simple seller of accessories for heating and water circulation. So this is the share price, which had a bit of a dip in 2022. So when institutional investors start to be tense, they tend to sell. The companies that are the least liquid, those are the ones with the least trading volume, the lowest trading volumes on the market, so they sell. And that explains this dip after the holidays in 2022, which meant some investors were able to join at low prices and make to get a good deal. Anyway, it's gone up again, and what I wanted to emphasize with this graph is that we have never reduced the dividend. And when I say to people on Boursorama, when people say that the dividend is not high enough, but I would say Thermador has made a lot of has achieved a lot of growth over recent years, and the most important thing is reinvested dividends. And here we are, this 10-year curve for reinvested dividends from a base of 100. The blue curve is the CAC 40, and the orange graph is Thermador groupe through to March 31st. So in the CAC 40, anybody imagine what the return has been? On the graph you see we've increased from 100 to 260 about. Nobody wants to have a guess? No? 8%, not bad, yeah. 9.5% for the CAC 40, particularly upheld by the companies from the luxury sectors, LVMH and so forth, but even energy companies like Total. That's 10%. And to compare Thermador over that period, the growth has been 17.2%. So that's from a base figure of 100 to almost 500. So even though the dividend doesn't seem enormous, it's this curve which really is important. And here the number of the amount of trading volumes. Institutional investors look for blocks. They do wholesale trading. We've seen that over the past 2 years has dropped over the past 2 years, as for many mid caps, but it's up on 2019, and I think we've reached a stable level, and I think that in 2023 we'll see a higher level of trading volumes. So a few words about prospects. I'd be very cautious because of the situation. You know that we've passed on a lot of price increases. Inflation affects every sector of our economy, and I'm worried that too much inflation could result in recession. Even though the beginning of the year has been pretty good for many companies. We'll be giving our figures in a few days, but what we've heard, what we've seen, business levels are good. But I remain cautious about such high increases in prices. So in building, catastrophe in terms of new builds. The number of new building planning permission being approved in recent months has dropped and dropped. So that's affected Thermacom because what they sell is linked to new builds, same for PB Tube. So for this part, which represents about 10% of our turnover, accounts for about 10% of our turnover, it's going to be a difficult year. But we will continue to develop our activities in renovation and in particularly energy renovation optimization. We talked about solar water heaters, but also heat pumps. We also sell accessories for solid fuel boilers, but also heating and cooling panels, solutions of ventilation solutions, which are very economical. All these elements of equipment will contribute to the energy renovation of buildings. And fortunately, there's a lot we can do in those markets. And we're also helped by the authorities who offer subsidies for MaPrimeRénov', for example. That's being developed, even though the body that pays those subsidiaries are not very quick at getting the money out. But we've also got the energy saving certificates, which are given or paid for by the energy suppliers. Industry. We're not the biggest player in France, a long way from being the biggest in Europe, even though the industrial indicators are below 50, so that suggests a slowdown, but also in Europe, because of our position and market share, the activities of recommendation and sales activity, we can still grow in those sectors. In retail, after a mixed year in 2022, I don't think we can expect a miracle in 2023. It's going to be pretty low because inflation has certainly hurt French households' spending power. Export, talked about that. I'm not going to come back to that. Property and investment, we will continue to invest in our buildings. That's an important part of the company's assets. We own a lot of our property. We will continue to invest in the months ahead, seeking to reduce our energy consumption. There'll be 8.5 million investment in 2023, of which 4 million in buildings, after 11 million in 2022. In 2023 will be a year for organization, integration. We talked about the Diprat-Rouchot merger, which gave rise to Odrea, and the work that had to be done on IT to allow the employees to help the company grow in difficult markets. We also need to roll out all the improvements on the group's ERP system. We need to change our version on the ERP, and so we need to continue to recruit employees to the IT team and train them in this difficult market for recruitment, because everybody is very much in demand with that sort of profile. We've got a lot of work to do in terms of developing our e-commerce, our commercial websites. And so, as you see, we've got a lot of projects, very practical projects in terms of a customer relations management software, which we're going to be investing in. A lot of work ahead in the longer term, but this year we'll start to think about managing our product data, because that is becoming the black gold of our business, and we need to be able to control our data in the future. And now we're going to hand over to our auditors. And whilst they're coming up, I want to thank Mazars, firm represented by Frédéric Morel. I've known two auditors from Mazars, and that they've been with us for 30 years. So Mazars is leaving us. It's there's no reason of insatisfaction either on one side or the other, but the rules require us to change auditors. So there'll be a resolution to replace Mazars by Deloitte. But I wanted to thank them for those 30 years service, and thank Frédéric for having stayed with us for so long. So it's over to you now. Good evening all. So we work together on all of the topics of the audit. For this evening, I'm going to present the reports on the accounts, the consolidated accounts first, and the corporate accounts. Then Frédéric Morel will talk to you about the special auditor's report. So we're going to start with the consolidated accounts, the figures presented to you earlier. We carried out our checks throughout the year. We intervened on June 30th on the half-year accounts and audited the accounts on December 31st under very good conditions. We also got the information we needed from all the leading subsidiaries of the group, and as indicated in the report on page 164 of the URD, we worked mainly on the important elements, goodwill, which results from external growth for 79 million on the consolidated accounts. That's the valorization of those assets. Second subject, very important subject, which you talked about earlier, also stock. So that's 190 million euros. And we checked that the value attributed to that was correct. We also checked that all the information communicated to shareholders in the URD and in the legal documents matched the accounts in reality. And in conclusion, for these consolidated accounts, we certified that these consolidated accounts in relation to the IFRS accounting standards reflect the operations of the year ended, of both in terms of the financial situation and the assets of the company. So in terms of the corporate accounts of the company, Thermador SA. So the report on the accounts appears on page 177 of the URD. In the same way, we intervened jointly during the year for the corporate accounts for all the holdings. Our work focused on the assessment of equity investments and receivables related to them, 180 million euros, 78% of the balance sheet. So there again, we checked that those values were given accurately. In the same way, all the elements sent to the shareholders in the different documents comply with the accounts. And there again, we certify, in respect of French accounting standards, that the accounts are regular and sincere and give a fair view of the results for the year ended and of the financial position and assets of the company at that date. Now for the Special Auditor's Report. Good evening. We were informed there was no convention introduced during the year to be submitted to the AGM. So conventions that were approved previous years continued, including lease agreements for storage and admin buildings for some subsidiaries. That concerns Thermador, Jetly and Sferaco, and fees, rents and fees on turnover and equipment. Fees were charged to Thermador 594,000, Sferaco 1.2 million, and 910,000 for Jetly. In terms of fees, royalties on turnover, 2 million for Thermador, 1 million for Sferaco, and 1.5 million for Jetly. And for fee on equipment, 1,000 euros. There's a commitment to the end of career indemnity for executives. It's the same as that paid to an employee. This convention was not applied in 2022, and the board specifies that this convention is maintained. Thank you, Frédéric. So, this is an important moment for all of you, either to speak and make a comment or ask questions. And so we have a microphone that can be passed around. So if anybody would like to speak, ask a question, please go ahead. Hello. So I'm representing the German investor, TGV. My name is Thorsten Aas. We have 250 investors with long-term investment perspective. 2022 was another big year for you, a lot of challenges, the war in Europe, energy crisis, inflation, and the increase in interest rates. And in spite of this difficult context, once again you were able to increase turnover and profit, so well done to all the management teams and to all employees, all of the 770 employees of the group. I want to welcome the teams from DPI and AFI. I hope their integration and the achievement of synergies will go ahead smoothly in this exceptional group. The integration of new teams is a key point for long-term success. So congratulations for the merger of Dipra and Rousseau to give rise to Audrea. And finally, I was very happy to read and to see the automation of FG Inox warehouses, because I think that making a success of the digital transition is important for all groups, and so I would want to encourage you to go further in that sense, in that direction, in terms of e-commerce and all the other elements that are important in those areas of digitalization. Thanks also to the auditors, and a great evening to all of you. I want to say that we have very open discussions with this shareholders, and sometimes we don't agree, and that's interesting. Of course, that's great to have a reference shareholder where we can exchange on subjects that we don't always agree on. So thank you for having with us for so long, and thank you for saying when you don't agree. It's always interesting to hear that, and quite right. You mentioned the automation of the warehouse at FG Inox. It's true that FG Inox people who are here today wouldn't be pleased if I didn't talk about that, so you give me a chance to correct my mistake. Big investment to increase productivity in terms of order preparation and, of course, space saving. So thank you for reminding me of that, Torsten. I forgot to say earlier, but thanks to all of you who are here physically, but there's also 40 or 50 people listening in on the webinar who can ask questions. And so Arlette will ask those questions for us. We have a regular visitor to the AGM. Welcome. Is my microphone working? It depends on your question. If we don't like your question, we cut the microphone off. Hello, Nabelitan, regular visitor at these events. First of all, I'm thrilled to be here, like every year, because you, Thermador, opened the season for shareholder meetings. So it's the first shareholder meeting. You're the first to pay your dividend. I don't criticize the scale of the dividend. I think the most important thing is that you increase it every time. Second, I'd like to thank you for helping us to discover different venues in Lyon. It's really nice. I've seen 5 different places, and I think it's great for us and even for people from Lyon to see these places in their own time, in their own town. So I've got a few questions that I've adjusted according to your excellent presentation. So the first concerns DPI. And why is the head office in Monaco? Why do you want to keep it in Monaco? I'll answer. I know you'll be asking me 10 questions, so I'll answer question by question. So, of course, this is a question that I asked to employees of DPI. It turns out that there's no big tax advantage, contrary to what you might think, but there are advantages for the employees in terms of important to look at social security and pension. So short term is not an objective. We won't be moving them anywhere else because we have other priorities, but it's true that when we came across this opportunity, the first thing we asked our auditors to do was to check, we did the due diligence to check the company's tax practices, and we considered that they were compatible with the group. Second question, you answered partially. You've taken the opportunity to take loans out, and you've gone into debt indeed, which Guy Vincent didn't want. But do you think that increases in interest rates in the future will discourage you from investing? Yes, I think that's quite true. In general, increases in interest rates will reduce people's appetite for investment, not just Thermador, but all those on the market for acquisitions and mergers. But I wouldn't say it's the biggest element, the actual cost of borrowing the money. It's really finding the right company that matches our plan. But it's not a priority for 2023, but we're not closed, of course, to new information, new opportunities. You talked a lot about young employees, juniors in the group. Could you talk us about what you do for seniors in your group? It looks like with the current process over the pension age means that you're going to be having employees longer. For us, I think we've got 33% of over 50-year-olds in our group. Svalco has just recruited somebody over 50. The history of Aelo is based on a team of people over 50. So we love seniors because they're people who've got lots of experience. okay, they haven't got the energy of the youth, but they have great experience, and that's important. Last question. Focus on the British market. What have you got to say, Lionel? Could you talk to us about the British market? So we've been there for 10 years. We were obviously a bit worried 3 or 4 years ago, but in fact Brexit and the new provisions put in place have not affected our growth. It's a bit more complicated, but it works for us. We're present there, and we've got good customers there who are importing, because that's the fact now, from us. In terms of the economic situation over there, it's not so good, but for us it's not an enormous market in relation to all of our markets. So we're making small steps and not particularly affected by the economic situation there. Arlette, do you have any questions? Oh, hello. You in your URD, you were talking about URD. There's key figures in that and a range over a period of a decade, and that's fabulous to have see how the company develops and how value is created within it. So congratulations on that. I saw that 36% of your purchases are in dollars. There's been big variations in the exchange rate between the dollar and the euro. What impact does that have on the company? So I'm going to answer that first. Patricia, could you answer that question? I don't think it's 36%. Patricia thought she'd finished, but she's back on stage. 37% of purchases are in dollars. I've got my microphone, so I can answer. So that's right, 37% of purchases in dollars, and we have a hedging mechanism, which allows us to compensate for any increases, any disadvantage in the exchange rate. So the second half was kept us approximately to parity with the dollar. So there's two means of covering that. We've got hedging, and we can also pass on price increases to our customers. So 2022 is finished. 2023, we're trying to cover at least a half-year lead through hedging, but there's been big variations in the rate. Yeah, from 0.98 to 1.08 in the space of a few weeks. Yeah, so with Isabelle Giraud, who's here today, we keep a close eye on these topics, and we've centralized our cash in dollars, which previously was in individual subsidiaries. That allows us to negotiate better with the banks and have better prices. But for the moment, we're managing to minimize the impact of those exchange rate. In any case, the risk for shareholders is very low because we don't speculate. Second question is the impact of energy prices on the 2022 performance. No impact in 2022 because we had contracts which ended in 2022. We renegotiated in 2023. And we think there's going to be an impact of around 650,000 to 700,000 euros. But we can renegotiate during the year with our energy suppliers. It's true that we're a distribution company. We're not particularly badly affected, not like in industry, but it is significant, that additional cost. We've talked about the increase in energy, transports and salaries. Of course, that impacts the subsidiaries' results, and we will be looking at an increase in prices of between 4 and 5%. We've got solid inflation now. There's no question, and those are some of the elements that we are preparing for next year, increase in prices between 4 and 5%. So the URD, I want to congratulate our teams who work on that, Patricia's team. All of her team is here, with Mila and Jebo. And of course, Opaline, our advertising agency, who puts together this very complete and very thorough document, and very early on in the year, which allows us to have this very open exchange with our shareholders, as we're experiencing today. Okay, a question from webinars. We've got practically 50 shareholders online. We have a question from Thierry, who is a close follower of Thermador Groupe and Air Liquide. Asks the following questions. Are we thinking of putting in place a loyalty premium for loyal investors? And what about a free shares campaign like Air Liquide? So loyalty premium, no, because we are looking for more liquidity, so more movement on the share. We're not Air Liquide, to be clear. We're 80 times smaller than Air Liquide, so we haven't got the same kind of volume of trading on the market. So we're not looking to stabilize our shareholding. We need more liquidity. What about free shares? That's a big theme, big topic. And again, I would say no, because a free share doesn't help the shareholder. The shareholder doesn't gain from it. It's simply because it's simply dilution. So shareholders are always saying to me, "He gives a free share, and the price goes up." But in reality, if we hadn't given the free share, the price would have gone up even more. So I would invite the shareholder to look at the reinvested shares graph that I showed earlier on. You will see that Thermador Groupe outperformed Air Liquide in that respect over a 10-year period. However, I would say that I love Air Liquide. I'm not criticizing this company. They have performances that really, they outperform the CAC 40. Two questions from Jean-Loup. The first is, what is the interest rate for the loans that you're taking out? We can't answer that question because that's one of the, it's a confidential information with the banks. As you know, if you get a good deal with your partner is going to say to you, keep it to yourself. And because we're loyal to our partners, we're not going to reveal it. Patricia, you want to reveal that? No. I just wanted to say that we've taken a longer period. We negotiated a longer repayment period, 7 years, and we've also managed to delay the start of repayment to 2024 for money we received in 2023. And then we've negotiated that as well as getting a good rate. So I forgot something important about the free shares. It's not free for the company, of course. If Thermador Groupe was to issue, I don't know, one share for 6, the operation will cost Thermador Groupe more than 60,000 euros if they had to pay to Euronext. It's a lot of money. And that slows people down in this respect. Makes it less attractive to issue free shares. So, second question from Jean-Loup, maybe for Yves. For the solar panels, what's the percentage of consumption in relation to the amount sold onto the grid? No, you have to look at the video, because we don't sell photovoltaic panels. We sell thermal panels. So that means that we heat the water on the roof, and we're going to inject that water into the water heater. So it's not electrical energy we're creating, it's thermal energy. We're not selling energy to the grid. So I can't answer that question, sorry.
Une autre question d'un autre actionnaire qui s'appelle aussi Thierry. Mais
Another Thierry.
La ressource en eau
water resources is becoming a big challenge, and water tables, and of course droughts. What impact will it have on the swimming pool market? That's absolutely right. Where's your eyes here? It's a hot topic, of course, for Jérôme Chabaudy and his teams. He's in charge of ILO. And we're looking to find solutions, technical solutions, to make the swimming pool into a useful object, a useful item for harvesting water, rather than just a luxury item. But of course, that will require lots of education, lots of product development and training for installers. It's going to be a long-term project. I'm sure that market's going to be impacted in 2023. But we have to remember that we're on the back of a number of fantastic years. So just because things calm down a bit after some great years, there's no reason to panic. However, on this subject of water, you talked about ALO, but there's also Jetly, and they are really involved because of with their rainwater harvesting systems. Audrea, Jetly of course does watering too, but Audrea is on the watering pumps market. But there's also a great opportunity, I think, for DPI, of course, Gregory, because all the pipework in France needs repairing, needs to be made watertight, and there are leaks everywhere. So this is all going to have to be repaired to save water, and the first element of water saving is not wasting water. A question from Philippe in terms of internal mobility. 770 employees in the different subsidiaries. Do you think internal mobility would allow you to cover vacancies without employing from the outside? This already exists. We have a platform already in place which publicizes all vacancies in the group. And people in previous years have chosen jobs, changed jobs within the group. And that was decided at the end of after the first employee survey, and it works really well. And last question from Jean-Claude. Why does a group like Castorama not negotiate directly with the manufacturers? It's very simple. We have to negotiate with the purchasing teams of Castorama. So when you sell watering pumps or compressors, and you have to ensure the quality over long term with after-sales service, with a whole range of products. Price is not the only thing that counts. The after-sales service is important. So it's a difficult market. We're sometimes in competition with our customers, indeed, but we've been able to achieve performance over recent years. Any more questions? Okay, we've got to vote the resolutions, so we have to keep an eye on the enemy on the clock. One more question. Sorry. So, I'm a retired shareholder. Thank you for your report. Very clear, very precise, very interesting. So, what about carbon footprint for transport? Something that must be important for you. I've noted that the stock levels is something important for you. Do you have holding stock for your major customers? So no, we don't carry holding stock for our customers because we want our customers to commit to engage with us. First, to go back to your first question, when you study the carbon footprint of a distribution company, you think that transport is the biggest item. It's not true, because 96% of the impact is the product. Transport does count, of course, the remainder. 5%, Caroline tells us. Thank you, Caroline. So in our truck fleets, we see that they will be switching to more energy efficient vehicles, but contrary to what we might think, the impact of containers is not more than local deliveries in trucks from neighboring countries. Of course, we need to avoid the use of airplanes, but we don't use air travel for transportation of our air cargo, for the transportation of our supplies anyway. So, Caroline Desplat-Coty is just to my right. She's Sustainable Development Director, joined the group in 2022, set up a small team. If you want to talk about sustainable development or CSR, you can talk to her. She's an expert in many of these areas. Okay, are we ready for the resolutions? Have you got your clickers in your hands? Oh, we've got past 76%. That's fantastic. So we've 2% improvement on last year, so superb performance. You have to be careful not to jump too high year to year, because it makes the following years even more difficult. But they're well done. That's fantastic. A fantastic score. I've got one shareholder who said to me, what proves that's a good score? So I looked, I had a look at the score for Air Liquide, a company I love, but they've got 750,000 shareholders. You can imagine having to get them, even with vote access. And Air Liquide reports 55%, 35% of the shareholding, the capital is held by private shareholders. L'Oréal, more than 80%. That gives me an objective, except that they represent only 6% of L'Oréal's capital. Webstone, some of you will know, 80% controlled capital, only 35% private investors. Interparfums, great company, medium-sized company. But you've got 72% of the capital is held by Interparfums Incorporated. So with our 76%, with our who have better, who understand or understanding vote access better and better, I think it's a great score. I think we've achieved a very good level. As you know, some members of the financial services market, AMF, push for voting in real time, but it's possible in the years ahead that those that are remote might be able to vote in real time, and maybe you'll be able to use your mobile phone in the future to vote. So just tell me when you're ready and we'll try it. It needs to be a recent and phone in good condition. So we're going to first explain how it works. So your box is strictly personal. You have the number of votes you have or you represent appear on the screen. You only have the green, yellow and red buttons. Those are only three you can use. Green for, yellow abstention, red against. After each resolution has been read, the vote will take place immediately, and we will say the voting is open, and you'll see a rectangle on the screen showing you the time that is left to vote. When that countdown is ended, it will say the vote is ended, and you won't be able to continue voting. The result will appear on the screen several moments after the closure. Please turn off your mobile phones during the voting and to return the controllers when you leave the AGM. So there's a tracker on the boxes, so you'll never get away with it. So to be sure that you understand how it works, we're going to do a test question. Are you in favour of the choice of the Celestin Theatre, where we are today, as a site for Thermador Group's meeting AGM in 2023? Voting is open. Voting is closed. Processing of votes. 99.97% for. Oh, everybody loved it. So first,
à chaque fois qu'on aura le résultat du vote des actionnaires, je vous donnerai le résultat du vote des propriétaires de parts du FCPE. Alors, vous savez,
I'll give you each time. I'll give you the answer of the members of the FCP, the mutual fund.
Et on a pris l'initiative. C'est les représentants des salariés au conseil de surveillance du FCPE qui ont pris l'initiative de faire un pré-vote.
So the initiative was taken by the employee representatives to do a pre-vote on the resolution. So I'll give you their answer as well. Resolution number 1, approval of the annual accounts. Voting is open. Voting is closed. The resolution is adopted, 99.9%. 95.5% for the employees. Resolution number 2, approval of consolidated accounts. Voting is open. Voting is closed. 99.9% for. And the employees voted in favour at 94.7% and 5% in abstention. Resolution number 3, distribution dividend of 2.08 euros per share, a total of 9,200,000 and 849 shares for a total of 19,137,765.92. Voting is closed. Resolution is adopted 99.9%. Employees voted 88.5% in favour, 44.4% against and 7.4% abstention. Resolution number 4, renewal of the board mandate for independent board member Mathilde Yagoubi for 4 years. But she's ill, so she's not here this evening. But this is her second mandate. Voting is open. So you will see the score on the screen. I will just give you the employee score separately. That's adopted. 91% for, 7.8% abstention, 0.9% rejection. Fifth resolution, renewal of the independent board member mandate for Olivier Villemont de Clergier for 4 years. And he's been here for 7 years already. And as you know, Olivier is CEO of LDLC.
Et pour ne rien vous cacher, j'en parlerai tout à l'heure, tout de suite d'ailleurs, mais si Olivier était reconduit dans son poste d'administrateur, il est fort probable que demain au conseil d'administration, il soit nommé président du comité d'audit.
And if he's approved here today for his next mandate, there's a good chance he'll be appointed as chairman of the audit committee at the board meeting tomorrow. Voting is open. Voting is closed. That's the result, 99.04 in favour, 92.2% in favour, 6.5% and 1.2% against for employees. Sixth resolution. I need to just break a second to thank Karine Godin, who's going to be leaving the board of Thermador. I've always known her on the board. It's Guy Vincent who recruited her. And she'll talk to you about that at the afterwards. So she was invited to contribute to a project of the board of directors, and she's been with us for 12 years. Now we need independent board members to keep the balance. We're looking for another independent board member. So thank you, Karine, for your 12 years of work. A very faithful, very loyal, assiduous board member, loyal to the company. Slightly impertinent. She won't hesitate to say what she thinks. And it's quite nice to have people who feel free to speak and say what they think. And the cherry on the cake is that Karine has invested heavily in Thermador groupe shares. So she's got a little more than 1,000 shares, and that's been a good deal for you. And thank you for your investment in both senses. So to replace Karine, of course, we've looked for a woman to fulfill that role. We met Véronique during our work with Middlenext. You were Boiron previously, you were finance director, but could you explain your present function? Good evening. Thank you, Guillaume. I've got a slightly odd job. So I'm a financier for the church. So it's all to do with the finances, the buildings, the property of the church. It's the equivalent of patrician, but in a diocese. It's the diocese of Lyon, yeah.
Voilà.
on joue en terrain connu.
Voilà, bon, je tiens à préciser quand même qu'elle est tout à fait dans l'esprit du groupe Thermador.
she's very much
participer à nos travaux. Elle fait
aligned
preuve
with the values
ce qui est important,
of
et elle a
Thermador group,
aussi, de très
great
bonnes compétences sur les sociétés cotées,
humility
ce qui nous arrange
and familiarity with the groups that are listed. So she'll be with
Donc, je propose
a
que
useful
nous
addition to our
votions,
audit committee.
pour sa nomination en tant qu'administrateur.
So we will proceed with the vote for her appointment as an independent board member. Voting is open. Voting is closed. 99.26 in favour. Well done, Veronique. Employees, 87.9%, with 6% of abstention.
Résultat du vote. Résolution
Resolution number 7, approval of Guillaume Robin's earnings for 2022. It's a bit of a complicated topic, but all the details are in the URD. But we're ready to answer your questions, Patricia and I, should you have any questions to ask. So the voting is open.
Le scrutin est clos.
Voting is closed. 99.12% for.
12%.
For the employees, 87.5% in favour, 5% against, and 7.5% abstention. Same thing for Patricia. This is for 2022. And later we'll be voting for the same thing in 2023. So for Patricia Mavigny, the vote is open. Voting is closed. In favour, 99.15% for our employees, 87.9%, 4.7% and 7.5% abstentions. Resolution number 9, approval of the earnings policy for the board is described in the URD. Voting is open. This is for members of the board of directors. Vote in favour. 99.93% for employees. 86% in favour, 5.3% against, and 8.7% abstention. Resolution number 10, approval of the information required according to Article L22-10-9 of the Commercial Code, Companies Code. It's a slightly strange resolution if you haven't read the text. It requires listed companies to detail all the elements of earnings of the executives. So, after discussion with scoring agencies, required us to create a table which described all the earnings for Patricia, Lionel and myself, according to results, according to etc. And it's very detailed to comply with that article. So we're asking you to vote on that now. Voting is open. Voting is closed. Vote in favour, 99.14%, 89.7% in favour for employees, and 10.3% abstention. Resolution 11, approval of the earnings for Guillaume Robin for 2023, same as before, but for 2023. Voting is open. In favour,
Le scrutin est clos.
99%.
La résolution est
For the employees,
99%. Les salariés l'ont adopté à 86,3%.
86.3% in favour, 8.4% in abstention, and 3.3% against. Same thing for Patricia. Voting is open. This is for Patricia's earnings for 2023. Voting is closed. 99% in favour. For the employees, 86.9% in favour, 8.4% abstention, and 3.3% against. Same thing for Lyon Monroe for 2023. He is paid, a small part of his earnings is paid by the holding. Most of it depends on the results of Safeco.
Une agence de notation extra-financière qui s'appelle ISS, une agence américaine, ce qui nous a valu sur certains investisseurs américains des votes contre puisqu'ils ont suivi l'avis de cette agence de notation.
Okay, so an American scoring agency, rating agency, refused our data. Found our data not to comply with their requirements, and so they encouraged their members to vote against it. Voting is open.
Le scrutin est clos.
Voting is closed. 90.44% in favour.
Alors vous allez dire pourquoi pas 99? Je vous l'ai expliqué tout à l'heure parce que des agences de notation.
And that's simply because the rating agencies found that our information
pour à 86,3%, 9% d'abstention et 4,7% de contre. Résolution numéro 14.
Was not sufficient. The information about his salaries was not sufficient. The employees voted in favour 86.3%, 9% abstained, and 4.7% against. So the next resolution.
Les administrateurs qui sont également salariés du groupe. Donc il y a une enveloppe que l'on augmente pour accompagner cette rémunération dans le temps. Le vote est ouvert.
So this is resolution number 14, approval of the global amount, maximum amount for earnings allocated to members of the board. Voting is closed. Adopted at 99.91%. Employees adopted at 86%, 9% abstained, and 5% against. Resolution 15, approval of the regulated conventions. Nothing new compared to last year, nothing to say about that. Voting is open. Voting is closed. Adopted at 99.98% for employees, 91.6%, 1.6% against, 6.9% abstentions. Resolution number 16, authorization given to the board for Thermador groupe to buy its own shares at a maximum price of €125. And that expires 18 months from the end of the AGM. Voting is open. Voting is closed. Resolution adopted at 99.92% for the employees, 90.7% in favour, 2.2% against and 7.2%
Si on leur
abstention.
dit que ce sont des actions qui leur sont destinées, peut-être qu'ils voteront plus à cette
If they were
résolution. On verra.
shares that were allocated to them, maybe they would vote higher. Resolution number 17, nomination, appointment and renewal of the auditors of the cabinet of the firm Deloitte and the firm Loyer for a period of 6 financial years. Voting is open.
Le scrutin est
Voting is
clos.
closed.
La résolution est adoptée à
Adopted
99,21%.
99.21%.
Les salariés l'ont
Employees
adopté à
adopted it at
91,3%.
91.3%, 1.3% against, and 7.3% abstention. Resolution number 18, approval of the transfer of the head office of Thermador Groupe to 60 Rue de Luzet. So we had a building that was used previously by PB Tube, by AILO, and now by the holding company. And in order to relocate the holding company, we had a bigger and bigger IT team, but also a financial support team, so we need more space. The voting is open. Voting is closed. Adopted 99.98%. The employees adopted 97.3%. That's what the employees voted best for in these resolutions. Resolution number 19, powers for legal formalities. So that resolution number 18 proved most popular amongst employees. Voting is closed. Adopted 94.4% in favour for the employees and 0.3% against and 6.3% abstention. So thank you for your patience. It's taken 2 hours, and I invite you now to go towards the beautiful installations in this theatre to share a glass and raise a glass together. Thank you.